up. Let's go out to the D&M Leasing Hotline, talk to Buddy, friend of the program, nobody more plugged into the Texas Longhorns than the one, the only KVUE lead sports anchor, Cory Mose. We were supposed to have him on at 8. We got so ahead of ourselves, we said, let's do it at 9. Sorry, Cory, that we had to have you on right here. We got so entrenched with our talk about Uber with shooters. Would you ever have a reason to get Protector, the app that is the Uber with tactical shooters, ready for you?
Why would I? No, bro. I'm good on that. I hope no one's coming after me like that. That'll be pretty bad. I'll be in a sticky situation if that was the case. But so glad to be on the show today. 8, 9 don't matter as long as I'm with the Brodies. That's all that matters. Come on,
that's what I'm talking about. That's the energy that we love to hear, Cory. Since the Longhorn season has obviously come to an end, what has life been like for Cory the last couple of weeks and months?
It's still Longhorn basketball, baseball, not WNBA, but women's basketball. They've been having a sensational year. They're coming off 3 wins over top 10 ranked teams, including South Carolina, including LSU. And so there's a lot of things going on. And, of course, Austin FC, they start up this weekend. They have their home opener, their season opener on Saturday. So still a lot of things popping off. And I had a full day today with the San Antonio Spurs because they're playing in Austin this week, So they're playing KD and the Suns tomorrow. So we talked to KD as well coming back home.
Yep.
And they play the Pistons on Friday.
Real quick, because, look, UT men's basketball, I don't think gets near enough love. But, look, I get it. It's a football town. But, I mean, look, y'all have had some monsters come through UT. Shout out to my boy, what was it, Luke Axtell from back in the day. But I got to ask you this. How does KD, what is that relationship like with KD and the University of Texas?
To be honest, it's a great relationship. KD comes back every year, and even throughout the year. Like he's very active. Especially nowadays because Rodney Terry's the head coach down here. And, Rodney was the one who helped recruit KD to Texas back in the day when Rick Barnes was the head coach.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, him and RT are pretty tight. So it's
a good connection to have right there.
You said what?
I said that's a great connection to have right there if you're Rodney Terry from a recruiting pitch standpoint.
Oh, right, and that's how he got Trey Johnson. Trey Johnson was a big, big get for him this past offseason. Now, Trey's going to be a lottery pick, and Trey looked up to Kevin Durant growing up, and he talked to us about that when we first met him early this season. And so, yeah, KD spoke about Trey today, actually, and saying how much potential he has, and he's excited to get him to the NBA and continue to build that Longhorn brand at the next level.
Well, speaking of that Longhorn brand, obviously some of the bigger names are going to be leaving for the draft when it comes to this UT football team. Obviously some ones off the top, Kelvin Banks, Isaiah Bond, Quinn Ewers, Matthew Golden, Gunnar Helm, Jake Majors, and Mabuka, the safety. Just out of those, I'll ask you first. We'll get into some of those players and kind of where they translate, maybe what teams and rounds you see them going in. But just first, how do you think this Texas team, I saw you tweet about the class, I think, the other day. How do you think this team is going to be without all these guys that have kind of cultivated who Texas has been the last couple of years? How is Texas going to look next year, obviously with having Arch at the helm?
Yeah, it's going to be completely different. Coming into this season, of course you lost some big-time names. You talk about the Xavier Worthies, the Adonai Mitchells, but you still like the leaders per se, right? You have the Quinn Ewers still here. Cedric Baxter is coming back. Unfortunately, he got hurt. But, you also have the Kelvin Banks of the world and the guys like Barron Sorrell, who's in this draft now. Yep. The guys that were in the locker room and being the vocal leaders, they were still on the squad. And so I think that wasn't a concern coming into this season. But now you head into next season, right? And you have all those guys that were the vocal leaders in that locker room leaving the program. And so who's going to step up? Who's going to be that guy to now take that helm? And I think that's the biggest question. When it comes to next season, though, you have a lot of talent, and this is why you have, a top 5 recruiting class for the past 3 years since Sark has been here. Now it's time to have those guys develop, and it's their time to shine. You saw a little bit of that this year with, DeAndre Moore Jr. getting a lot more love this year, becoming one of the top receivers in his offense. You saw even a guy like Ryan Wingo, right, the true freshman. He's supposed to have a phenomenal season next year, being the wide receiver 1. Apparently. And I think a lot of guys that you may have seen glimpses of this season, they're going to have to step up, and including Arch Manning. And I think there's going to be some bumps. There's going to be some losses here and there that they should lose, I guess you could say, but they're young. And I think that's what you should expect for this Texas team next season.
Okay, so now let's talk about some of these players that are declaring for the NFL draft. One guy that we've talked about in spades, but I want to now we're getting close to the draft, I kind of want to focus in more. I've seen Quinn Ewers going as high as the 3rd round. I think most people have him closer to the 4th or 5th. What is kind of the talk around UT, or just kind of what you're hearing, and kind of maybe a team or kind of where you think Quinn Ewers fits into? I was telling my co-host Fred, I think the general public has maybe a low perception on Quinn in the NFL, but maybe scouts and GMs see him. Hey, he could be a round 3 guy. Maybe he could be a guy on a team that doesn't have a great quarterback situation and could fight for a spot. Is Quinn maybe going to produce even better than the NFL than he did at UT?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to quarterbacks in the draft, right, just to start there, they get picked probably higher than they usually should. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of quarterbacks in the past. It's just like team needs quarterbacks, and that's the most important position on the field. And so Quinn is probably a top 5 quarterback in this draft. It's not a great quarterback draft, we're being honest. But when you have a guy like Quinn who, if you give him the time, he is one of the best arms in this draft, if not second, third best, in my opinion. I feel like you have a guy like Jackson Dart. Of course, we know like Shador and Cam is up top. But I like Jackson Dart a lot just because of his size and his body type. But Quinn has the ability to have different arm angles. He's smart as hell. When it comes to just his mind and getting people in the right positions. You saw that a lot this year with changing the play calls to run plays when he sees different people in the boxes. So I feel like when you put Quinn on the board, he's going to impress a lot of scouts as well. And I just think that at the end of the day, you have a kid that came out as one of the most talented high school players of all time when it comes to just composite rankings. And there's a reason behind that. And I think if you give him time, and the situation I wish he would fall into is L.A. out there with the Rams. I think he'll be a perfect pick for them. You have another year with Stafford. Let's say Stafford signs another year or whatever, or if you don't move on from Stafford. You have a genius in McVay to help him just use that creativity. And I just feel like Quinn, behind a solid offensive line with a guy like McVay around him, can bring the best out of him. Now, if you give him a situation where you have a guy like C.J. Stroud last year where he's running for his life every possession, that's not going to work for Quinn. He doesn't move well. But I do think if you look at a second, third round, maybe a guy that just needs 1 or 2 years to sit behind a veteran like a Stafford, I think that'll be a perfect fit for a guy like Quinn Ewers.
Cory Mose joining us, talking all things UT athletics. One thing that was a knock on UT football when they were going through the never-ending cycle of the Charlie Strongs and the Tom Hermans of the world before finally hitting pay dirt with Steve Sarkeesian was that they said that there was too many cooks in the kitchen when it came to, outside influences, inside the athletic department, what have you. Has that finally chilled out, or does Steve have enough of a kind of a control over this program with some winning and what he's been able to do where people are finally letting him do his thing?
Yeah, for sure. I think Sark has just proven over each and every year more wins as the year before. And I think at that, it's just a blueprint of, yes, he has control of this program. What he wants to get established the moment he got here was go get big humans, which is something that he's done very well when it comes to recruiting, and create a winning program. And that's exactly what he's done here at Texas in 4 years. And I think now anyone who comes in, which now there's going to be a lot of coaches coming in. You lost Blake Gideon to Georgia Tech. You lost Tashard Choice to the Detroit Lions. They actually just made a hiring the West Virginia running backs coach to replace Tashard Choice. So we'll see why that was a decision made there. But now you have guys that are trying to get into this program as assistant coaches because they know what Sark has done with getting coaches to the next level. Even Jeff Choate, right? He was a defensive coordinator, and now he's a head coach at Nevada. And so guys like that, they're seeing, oh, wow, Sark is developing coaches and then pushing them out. And to me, that's a product of a great program and a great leader in Sark. And so, yeah, I think he has all the power in this program. Now, he does listen to his trusted guys like a Kyle Flood, who's been with him through thick and thin. And I think guys like that who stick around, like a Jeff Banks, that should also prove to you that, they're not jumping ship from Sark because they trust Sark and they trust what he can do.
And Cory, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Tashard Choice again. Obviously, the Cowboys were interested in him, and then the rumor was money was a big reason. The Cowboys not want to spend it. Then Detroit comes up and ups the ante, and they get your boy Choice. First of all, just anything that you heard about Choice, obviously wanting to stay at UT, kind of what led him to go to Detroit, and then on the back end, do you think UT will be okay losing such an integral part of their coaching staff in Tashard Choice?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I heard anything particularly about, the move not going to Dallas at all, but I will say, to me, his pride and joy has always been Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that's something that he takes pride in. You know, when he was at Georgia Tech, Jahmyr Gibbs was his guy.
Yep.
And so I think, from my perspective, this is me just speculating, but, you know, you always have a slight love for your first one. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, Gibbs was the first dude that really popped off for Choice, and that's kind of how he got the job at Texas. And so I think having the opportunity to rejoin the kid that kind of started his career and popped off for him was an enticing move for Choice. And I think it was a move that, if you're going to go to the NFL for anybody, you do it for the kid that you started this thing with, right? And I think that's why he kind of chose to go to Detroit and not go to Cowboys or stay with Texas. And plus, you know, you throw in a caveat of you get to also coach David Montgomery. You know, that's a pretty nice duo, you know, if you're going to jump to the NFL. And so I think that was the biggest reason why. I'm sure that FaceTime between him and Gibbs was awesome once they got on the phone together, and the boys are back together. Now, when it comes to what's next for UT, you know, that's a great question. They hire a guy in the West Virginia running backs coach. I'm sorry, his name is we're missing me right now, so my apologies on that. But, you know, West Virginia has a top 10 rushing attack between Power 4 conferences for the past 3 years since he's been there. So, you know, his pedigree is there. Now, I will say this, though, when it comes to outside the football field, Choice was one of the greatest recruiters in this program. I mean, you have a dude that got C.J. Baxter. You know, he went out and got Jared Gibson. He went out and got a James Simon in this recent recruiting class. You know, you got a Christian Clark, who Sark says reminds him a lot of Bijan Robinson. I just think that recruiting-wise, you lose a lot. And a lot of these guys spoke out on Twitter once Choice made that public about, man, we love you so much for how you treated me from day one with recruiting. Even the five-star recruit, Michael Terry, he's not even a running back, and he spoke out about how much Choice was impactful in his recruiting. And so I think that's what you're going to see the biggest loss in with this program, is that Choice's recruiting aspect was so vital for this top 5 recruiting class, number 1 recruiting class this year. And so how will they replace that? We'll see what happens.
You're listening to Cory Mose of KVUE, covering all things Texas Longhorns. I think the coach you were thinking of was Chad Scott. That was at West Virginia.
He says he's a solid recruiter, by the way. Now, this is from Burnt Orange Nation, so take that with a grain of salt. But they say he's got a track record as a solid recruiter.
When you look at the Dallas Cowboys, who have obviously the 12th overall pick and then also have a pick in the, I think, mid-40s, 44, I believe, in the second round, a lot of people, myself included, have mocked some Longhorn players going in the first and second round. I kind of just want your take on it. Barron, obviously being the Thorpe Award winner at the DB position. You've got Kelvin Banks, who was one of the best linemen this year. You've also got Matthew Golden, who I reviewed his tape the other day and loved everything he brought to the table.
Nasty.
Out of those three guys, or maybe another guy, first or second round, what do you think fits best for the Dallas Cowboys? And obviously they need everything.
Yeah, facts, for sure. I think, you know, you will always want another playmaker outside of CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
So getting a guy like Golden would be phenomenal. I don't think Golden's going to be there in the second round, to be honest. And I don't think Cowboys take him at, 12?
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe Isaiah Bond's there. And I think that's a guy that his draft stock has fell, if we're being honest. You know, he wasn't healthy nearly half the season this year. And when he was playing, he clearly wasn't 100%. And so Golden took that opportunity to become the number 1 receiver for Texas. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens to Bond's stock once, you know, he does the combine. If he goes out and runs a 4.3, a low 4.3, like we all kind of expect him to, and reminds people about the Bond that was at Tuscaloosa, you know, I think that's something that to look out for. But if he's there early in the second, I think Bond would be a perfect fit. And I also just think a guy that I really like, to be honest, is Andrew Makuba. I mean, you mentioned him earlier, and Makuba in that back end with Trayvon Diggs and Bland, to me, would be phenomenal. He's a headhunter, just like DeMarvell and Overshown is for y'all.
Yeah.
And I think having two dudes that just want to take the head off people, especially in the run game, is something that would be phenomenal for that Cowboys team. But, yeah, when it comes to just fits, though, if we're going to go there, when it comes to Barron, Barron's my guy. Yep. I mess with Jahdae Barron so much. I think he could be a pivotal piece for any type of Super Bowl winning team and defense. He just seems like a Steeler to me, but I don't think he'll last that long. I will say, to me, I have Barron kind of mocked to the San Francisco 49ers at 11. They have a lot of defensive back questions when it comes to who they sign. They have a lot of free agents in that back end. And so if you don't sign a couple corners, go out and draft Aaron at 11. And with Robert Saleh coming back to that defensive coordinator spot, I feel like he loves tackling corners. That's exactly what Jade can do, and he does man very well. So Jade to 49ers will be like my perfect spot for him. But yeah, so I mean we can go dive into each player, but yeah, for the Cowboys, I definitely think Bond or Makuba later in the draft will be a perfect fit, or even also Jake Majors. Let me shout out Jake Majors, and that'll be probably 4th or 5th round for the Cowboys. But offensive line help, a guy that controlled all of the pressures when it comes to O-line. Quinn didn't really handle the pass protection. Jake Majors did. He's a very smart individual at that center position, 3-year starter at Texas, and a lot of snaps underneath his belt. And, you know, you can never have too much help on an offensive line, especially when it comes to trying to protect the big man, Dak Prescott, with all the money that you put into him.
All right, last thing from me, Cory, always a pleasure having you on, my man. 2-part question. One, I know it seems like we had our guy, man, don't be asking, we've had so many people on lately. A, are y'all going to have a spring game? Because that seems like right now college football is kind of 50-50 depending upon who you talk to as to whether or not there will be a spring game for your respective school. And then 2, any Overshown updates? Obviously, we know we expect him to be out half the year, maybe the entire season. Anything you can report to us on what our boy Demarion's looking like?
Yeah, I mean, I wish, but no, I haven't really heard anything from Overshown other than he had his own like ARP day the other day, so that's pretty cool that they his hometown shouted him out and gave him a whole day, so that was cool. But I will say that he's progressing pretty well. Of course, fashion usual. He plans to play next season.
That's huge. That's a big deal right there.
That's his mindset. Like, he plans to play. You know, he's one of those guys that nothing's going to stop him from getting off the football field. Okay. So I don't expect him to not be available next year at some point, depending on how well the season's going, you know. And I just trust that dude so much, man. He has so much fire underneath his belt. But can you remind me your first question? My apologies.
Spring game. Y'all going to have one?
Yeah, spring game. I doubt it, dude. I'm not going to lie to you.
For real? Y'all ain't doing it either?
I doubt it. I mean, because you got to realize, man, these dudes, they started in August, and they didn't end till late January.
That's fair.
Like,
I mean, if anybody has an excuse not to have one, it's you guys, it's Ohio State, and it's Notre Dame.
It's a grind, man. And, you know, it's funny enough, before that game against Ohio State, I asked some of the guys, Taft, I asked Makuba, what does your body feel like? You know, because, you know, you're playing an NFL schedule at that point. They would have been their 16th game of the year. And they're just like, yeah, it hurts. It hurts to go out there, and it hurts, you know. But, you know, you don't think about it once the ball gets kicked off. You know, you just do your thing. But I think for the sake of the program, Sark understands that there's no reason to do a spring game except for the fans. And, you know, you want to be able to go into this next season healthy, expecting to have another 16, 17 game season.
I was going to say, that's the bar now, right? I mean, it's championship or bust.
Exactly. And so why put bodies on the line this early when you only had a month and a half to rest? It just doesn't make sense for this program. But I will say, when it comes to the fans, it sucks. You know, people that want to see the new Arch Manning-led offense and some of the big-time freshmen that they brought in. But I think what Sark will probably do is he'll probably have an open practice late at night. They've done that before in the past, and have a practice at DKR for the fans to pull up, get some drinks, and watch at 7 o'clock at night some of the new guys. But I doubt they have an actual spring game. And to me, that's the right decision. I just think that's the best for what should happen for this program.
Well, hey, you want to be watching football in you know, late January? You want to be watching football in middle of March?
Exactly. And I
mean, it kind of makes sense when you put it like that.
Yeah. And I would say the craving for it isn't as much as it was last year. You know, when you have a season that long, you know, the craving as fans isn't that much. You know, they don't need it that much. You know, because they just got done with the football season. You just seen them boys play. So I think also that's a factor as well.
Fair enough. Cory, great stuff from you as always, my friend. Tell the folks at home where they can find you out on Twitter for all things Longhorn, because we got plenty of Longhorns listening to the program right now.
You know the vibes on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I don't really care. Elon's not my guy, so I don't give a rip. Cory_Mose, Mose, Cory, Cory. No E in my name, please. And also in Instagram, same thing, just Cory Mose. And TikTok, I'm trying to get better on that too, dog. So yeah, Cory Mose on that as well. So
no Blue Sky
content. Yep. What do you say?
No Blue Sky.
No blue sky. No blue sky. Definitely. I tried the whole Threads thing. That didn't work out.
Boy,
seriously.
Seriously. I tried Threads too for about a day, and I was like, this is just, it feels like
Hey, question for y'all, though.
Feels like Temu Twitter.
Can I ask you something real quick?
100%.
Y'all want Genty?
No.
Too rich at 12. We have so many
There's
needs.
too many. You got too many needs, man. You got too many needs. Now,
I mean, running back's a pretty big need.
right, but here's the thing: if you look at the teams, okay, so when how's Atlanta working out with the whole Bijan Robinson thing? Right, has that got them to the playoffs yet? You look at Jahmyr Gibbs. Yes, that was a great choice, right?
They were already set.
But that wasn't exactly. I mean, that's the thing I think people kind of misunderstand. If you're taking a running back in the first round, especially in today's NFL,
you're probably set.
Mm-hmm.
You're at that level where, okay, I'm one piece away from getting to that next level. And we talk about the running backs in the NFL. Blake and I just did a segment on it earlier in the show. All right. Sure, Derrick Henry, okay? Yes, he got paid, and rightfully so, but guess who picked him up? A Super Bowl contender. Same thing with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Saquon to Philly, all right? Even Josh Jacobs to the Packers, right? That was a team that had Super Bowl aspirations. So, again, look, running backs are important. No one's going to deny that. And, yes, the Cowboys definitely a running back. Hey, if you could trade back, say 16, 17, pick up a couple picks, and Genty's still sitting there by some grace of God, hey, go get it. It's meant to be. Don't think it's going to happen. And there's just too many running backs in this class that with the amount of needs that you need, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker. I mean, look,
corner.
I love the fact that you think Overshown's going to play next year. Here's the reality of it, okay? If he does, wonderful. But, oh, by the way, how many players have we seen who come off serious leg injuries and aren't the same for at least a year or 2 years after?
That's fact, though. A lot of them.
So that's and look, I think Overshown's a freak of nature, we're huge Overshown fans here on Fan After Dark. But I don't care, if this guy's got Neuralink in his head, unless there's something going on with that knee that we don't know about. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic if he's available in 2025.
Totally agree. I'm excited to see what y'all do with that 12 pick, man.
We all are.
Probably going to trade it for a fifth-round pick.
I was going to say Jonathan Mingo and some picks moving back in the draft. Cory, great stuff from you as always, my friend. Stay warm out there, and we'll do this again. I tell you what, let's talk again come tournament time. How about that?
Oh, I'm definitely ready for that. And I'm telling you, hey, women's basketball. Y'all talking about men's basketball. Women's basketball is a cream of the crop right now in Austin. That's who's running the hardwood right now.
Okay. Hey, we'll talk. Like I said, we'll talk about it here in another month, and we won't talk about KU. Great stuff as always, my friend.
All right, talk to y'all.